Hey, this is a video response to KP23 Enda's comment on my video. Because of the limited amount of characters you can post on as a comment respond, I decided to make a video addressing your point about you said that I hope you realize that mountainous regions, huge deserts, and deep jungles like the Amazon aren't lit up because we simply do not need lights there. The lights simply reflect areas of the world that are highly populated, areas where man has settled through history, and yes, that means we tended to settle close to the coasts in most countries. Well, it's a very, very good point, but very misleading and generally misconstrued. We settled, close to the coasts for a long time, because for a long time mankind hasn't been able to, wasn't able to gain large ground on nature, on the environment and on terrain. Lo que significa es que when you're talking about, all right, here let's keep it close. Let's keep the United States, right? When you're talking about when the United States was founded, the colonies and up to the early years of the Republic, it was an adventure. When you're talking about Daniel Boone, the guy that went to Kentucky, to Tennessee, that was an adventure to go out that far. Then eventually, you had Lewis and Clark going out west. It took months, probably years. I don't know. I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, it was an adventure to travel across the terrain, across the land. And this was the same way in around the world, in Europe, in Africa. They had horses and stuff, and carriages, but they didn't have anything else except ships. Ships were the way that trade moved. A significant amount of trade moved. It was in ships, and so this is why man settled close to coast in countries, and it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln was the I don't want to say the first, because the founding fathers definitely had an idea. When you're talking about the Patriots, Alexander Hamilton devised, I believe, he was the one that generally started what is known as the American system of economics. You can Google it. Wikipedia, I think, talks about something, American School of Economics. And it's something that we don't follow today, and it's something that we should follow. It's very, very crucial to the development of this country or any other country, because it's brilliant. And what it was is Lincoln understood this, the fact that if you wanted to defeat the British, that is British imperialism, if you wanted to do that, you couldn't do it through the seas, because of the East India Trade Company. The East India Trade Company for a long time dominated the seas. So you had to do it inland. And rail was the way America did it. The United States did it. The rail systems. Lincoln's transcontinental rail, where he started building rails out west. And he started, all these immigrants that were coming in, he was welcoming them in and sending them out west. It was these policies, this is part of the American system. I think it's the third policy, where you develop infrastructure through means of transportation. Lincoln had this vision about it. Like, he came into politics in Illinois, wanting navigational routes in the Sangamon, something like that, river, there in Illinois, to opening up he thought opening up these navigational routes to like steamboats and stuff, steamboat traffic, it would like help rural and poor areas flourish and prosper. Now, when he became president, he did this on a global level. First on a national level, building in the U.S., just building rail systems. That's why if you look at maps of the U.S., 1860, 1870, 1880, 1890, up to 1900 and 1910, I think, you will see exactly this. McKinley, in the 1900, 1896, when he was elected, followed this right up to FDR. However, what Lincoln also did, Lincoln took this on a global level. He went to Russia, he went to Germany, started promoting this idea, the American system of economics. He went to Peru, China, Japan. he had a vision of what was necessary to break away from British imperialism. And it created something known as geopolitics. And it was the first time in history where mankind was winning against nature, like at a highly increased rate. That is to say that it no longer took months. Through rail, you could take days, weeks maybe. At that time, today obviously we're more developed, but we've broken away from that. We have broken away from that, and that is why Africa and Latin America are the way they are, and North America flourish, because it would be suicidal to go inland and start without means of a trade. That is to say, you need trade routes. And these trade routes were the rail systems of America. That was what Lincoln understood to be the trade routes. The Germans understood. The Germans understood this before World War I. World War I was to blow up this system, because this system was making countries too powerful. It made the U.S. too powerful. This is why after the Civil War, where the North and the South were literally killing each other, following Lincoln's policies, the U.S. became the superpower that it was. And this is what isn't allowed to happen in Africa and in Latin America. You know what I mean? You have the longest, on the Al Jazeera channel, there's a special, the longest train in the world, and I think it's in Africa. It runs through the southern part of the Sahara or something. Here's the point of the train. The longest train in the world. And what it does is it brings the iron ore from inland to one of the coast cities. Forgot where. But look at the special, to the coast cities, and it's the longest train in the world. And they have these big buckets, basically. This train has these big buckets where they just dump the iron ore in to be traded to the coast so it can be, looted by the world. So what happens is people line up on this train. They line up on like the train tracks, well, not on the train, next to the train tracks, and wait for the train to come. And if there is a barrel that's open, they get in the barrel. There's all on the Al Jazeera channel, a special, longest train in the world or something. They get in one of the buckets, and that is their transportation to inland, where they can trade whatever goods they had. This is a trade route. Now imagine if there were more. Imagine if there were massive trade routes all throughout Africa. Now, when you say that these are areas that are highly populated, well, this is done on purpose. This isn't by accident. This is not by accident. This is on purpose. And this is part of the system. It's a monetary system. It's a central bank system. Because that is to say that the way British doesn't let it well, I don't want to say British like, it's the Brits. What it is, it's an oligarchical view. It's the bankers. The reason the bankers, or the banking system, if you will, if you don't want to blame them, you want to blame the system. The reason the banking system doesn't let this happen is because the banking system has redefined what the asset is. And the asset is now money, or rather the system itself. That is to say, look at, I'll take the case of Colombia. In Colombia, in 2000 or 2002, they wanted to build a subway system in Bogota. Bogota is very big, the capital of Colombia, obviously, but it's a very big city. I saw like 10 million people or so. They wanted to build a subway system, but they couldn't because they couldn't get the money. Now think about the implications that has. They couldn't build a subway system that would severely help the population of the city, right? The government couldn't do it because they couldn't get the money to do it. You know what I mean? And so that's how you control, sort of say, the trade routes. If you don't find the money for the trade routes cannot flourish. It's kind of reversed. But this is what monetary policy does. There needs to be the money first, and then so it essentially knocked human beings on a lower scale of what the asset needs to be. And this is the policy that McCain follows. This is the policy that Obama follows. This is the policy that the world today follows by calling the former president of Chile wrote in an Argentina newspaper the other day that the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, needs to be moved to like a central bank idea. And anytime you deal with a central bank idea, classical economics, East India Trade Company, the whole British system, anytime you deal with that, you are acknowledging that the money is more important than the human being, and that totally defies what the Constitution of the United States, which is unlike any constitution in this world, stands for.